This story is based on a real missing person case that gained attention online after a series of messages were recovered from a man's phone. At first, it seemed straightforward: a solo trip, a remote location, someone disappearing without a trace. But the final messages he sent raised more questions than answers. Welcome to Tales Beyond the Flame. In early autumn, a man in his late 20s set out on a solo hiking trip through a forest reserve known for its long, quiet trails. It wasn't considered dangerous. In fact, it was popular with experienced hikers looking for a few days away from the city. He had done trips like this before. He was prepared, planned his route, packed enough supplies, and told a close friend exactly where he would be going. Everything about it was normal. For the first day, nothing unusual happened. He followed the main trail, occasionally stopping to take photos and send updates. His messages were casual, simple. Photos of trees, comments about the weather, nothing out of the ordinary. By the evening, he had reached a campsite deeper in the forest. There was no reception there, so his last message that night was sent just before he lost signal. Camped for the night, back tomorrow. That was the last normal message anyone received from him. The next day, things changed. At around 2:13 p.m., his friend received a message. It came through despite the area having no signal. There was no image, no context, just a single sentence. I think I'm not on the same trail anymore. At first it didn't seem serious. People get turned around while hiking all the time. It happens. His friend responded, asking where he was. There was no reply. 30 minutes passed. Then another message came through. I keep ending up back at the same place. That's when concern started to set in, because that wasn't normal, even if you're lost. You don't loop perfectly like that without realizing it. His friend tried calling. No answer. Another message came through, this one longer. There's a clearing with something in the middle. I've seen it 3 times now. No explanation of what it was, no photo, just that. The friend called again. Still nothing. Then at 3:02 p.m., another message arrived. And this one changed everything? I don't think I'm alone out here. After that, the messages stopped. When he didn't return the next day, a search was organized quickly. Friends, local authorities, volunteers. They started with the trail he had originally planned to take. At first, everything lined up. His car was still parked at the trailhead, exactly where it should have been. His name was logged at the entry point, everything normal. But once they began searching the trail, things became confusing. They found signs of him early on. Footprints, a few discarded items, nothing unusual. But further in, the trail became harder to follow. And eventually, they found something strange, a clearing, matching the description from his message. In the center, there was something, but not what they expected. It wasn't an object, not exactly. More like a patch of ground, completely bare. No grass, no leaves, no debris, just exposed dirt. Perfectly circular, as if nothing had grown there for a long time. Search teams noted it, marked the location, but there was nothing else around it. No footprints leading in, no footprints leading out, just normal forest. They continued searching. Hours turned into days, still no sign of him. Then they found his backpack, left beside a tree, neatly placed, not dropped, not abandoned in a rush, just set down. Inside, everything was still there. Food, water, supplies, even his phone charger. But no phone, and no sign of where he had gone. That's when they started expanding the search area. And that's when things became even more confusing, because no matter how far out they searched, they kept coming back to the same clearing, different teams, different directions, same place, over and over again. At first, they assumed it was coincidence, a navigation issue. Dense forest can be disorienting, but experienced searchers don't make the same mistake repeatedly. And yet, it kept happening. Teams would mark their paths carefully, use GPS, track their movements. But somehow, they would still end up back at that clearing, sometimes without realizing how they got there. One volunteer later described it as feeling like the forest was closing in around them, like the paths between trees didn't stay consistent, like things shifted when you weren't looking directly at them. After the third day, they found his phone. It was lying just outside the clearing. Screen cracked. Battery nearly dead, but still functional. They recovered the messages, including one that had never been sent. It was saved as a draft. Incomplete. I can hear something walking when I stop moving. The message ended there. No punctuation, no follow-up, just that. Search efforts continued for several more days, then weeks, but they never found him. No body, no further belongings, nothing. Eventually, the official search was called off, listed as a missing person case, unresolved. But the people involved never forgot about the clearing, because even after the search ended, some of them reported the same thing, returning to the area later and finding themselves standing in that same spot again without meaning to. The case remains unsolved. No confirmed sightings, no evidence of what happened after those final messages. But there's one detail that still stands out. Something small, easy to overlook. When his phone was recovered, the last message he sent wasn't the last message on the device. There was one more. Time-stamped several minutes later, but never delivered. It didn't appear in any conversation. It wasn't sent to a contact. It just existed. Saved, like it had been written, but not finished. It read, I found the clearing again. It's closer now. That was it. No explanation, no context, just that. And according to the timestamps, that message was written after the search had already begun, after people were already in the forest looking for him, which means, at some point, he was still there, still moving, still aware, but somehow unable to leave. And whatever he had seen in that clearing, whatever kept pulling him back to it, was still there too. Because no one who searched that forest could ever explain why they kept returning to the same place, or why, even after they left, some of them still felt like they hadn't really found their way out.